Hello everyone, this is your teacher Julian Marin, and today we're going to be working on Martes de Prueba number 10 for the 8th grade. So let's start presenting so we can get ahead and analyze this test. Very well, so we are already here. So the first thing we always do is to analyze what kind of exercises or activities we have to confront. In this case, we have a text, which is essentially reading comprehension. But let's remember that in reading comprehension, we have different skills to develop. And at the same time, these are the skills that are assessed or evaluated. Let's remember we have skimming and scanning. Scanning particularly works or focuses on trying to remember or identifying very specific information in a text. On the other hand, we have skimming, which has to do with the information that, even though it's not explicit in the text, we can definitely identify. Okay, so which one is more difficult? Of course, inferential reading or understanding of messages will be more challenging. But remember, difficult doesn't mean impossible. We just need to identify this and we need to work on it, and so we can get better and better at this. So strategically, how is it that we're going to work? So first of all, we're going to read the text. And in a second moment, we're going to evaluate the questions and the possible answers to select the ones that we consider more appropriate. And of course, if it is possible, give reasons for that. Like, why are we choosing one or the other? So let's start. Affordable housing is one in which citizens can live in security, peace, and dignity. Although it is a right of the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights, almost half of the population in Latin America and the Caribbean still lack access to it. To solve the problem, governments have some innovative alternatives aimed at accelerating the reduction of the housing deficit in LAC. Financial innovation. New forms of financing can favor access to housing carried out through microfinance and credit, and also through subsidies for housing improvement. A recent example can be found in Ecuador. Construction innovation. Through the use of renewable and recyclable materials and efficient construction techniques that could range from prefabrication to industrialization of construction. Example, Chile. Alternative ownership models. It is necessary to develop alternatives to acquisition, such as rental housing. In the region, countries such as Chile and Colombia have had a successful experience in providing rental subsidies. Universal access to housing programs. It is essential that, through appropriate urban and social policies, governments ensure that programs are inclusive. Ecuador is an example of this in this matter. Okay, so that is the text. So after we read it, right, we're going to evaluate the different questions and make decisions on which would be the most appropriate answers and why, of course. So question 21. Who is responsible for providing the appropriate circumstances for people who purchase home? Okay, so if you go and look for like a specific or explicit words that will give answer to this question, you will not find it. And then if you try, you will be wasting precious time. This is essentially a skimming question because it's asking about like an idea, right, that you should get after reading the whole text. This is kind of a general idea. So over here, the proper answer will be A, the state, not the citizens, not the banks, because from the very beginning, they mentioned that it is the governments, right? The ones who are responsible for that. So this is another strategy that the evaluators have to assess your level of comprehension and your level of English, because then they're not going to be using the same words they use in the text in the questions. So that way they can confirm that you have a wide range of vocabulary, right, to work on also, and that you're understanding transcends what has been said what has been said literally. So let's move on to question 22. Besides the formal credit given by banks, what else is needed to favor the acquisition of houses in LAC? Now let's evaluate which other alternatives are mentioned. And also let's evaluate the coherence in the possible answers. This is something that we must always do, because very easily we can identify which answers would not be answering the question that is being asked, therefore wouldn't be coherent. A, to indiscriminately subside everyone in the country. Okay, so in A, what is suggested is that every single person in the country should be subsidized, right? That is not very coherent, because essentially we know that the problem is like coverage. So even though many people have already purchased or acquired their homes, the problem is the many people who haven't. So that's the people we want to focus. So even though this answer is, it's a coherent answer, it's answering this question, it is not, it is not like uh, a very, it is not connected to the text, to the reality, let's say. So it describes a different reality. Let's see option B. To issue legislation that motivates people to buy homes. This one seems to be more coherent and more connected to the reality that is described in the text. But let's evaluate C to make a decision. Definitely A is not a good option because it's not realistic. C, to give uh, subsidies, yes, to give subsidies to the richest population in the country. Again, this is not very realistic. This is not going to solve any problem. If anything, will be unfair and will be like wouldn't be tackling the actual problem. I mean, the richest population in the country, they don't have problems with housing, but the poor do. So we will be canceling C because of the same reasons we cancel A. This is not like connected with the message. So we're going to choose B for number 22. And as you can see, this is just general knowledge of the text, ideas that we get from the text that we, without going back looking for specific information in the text, definitely we can respond to. Let's see 23. What country in LAC is a good example of the way they build homes? Okay, in this case, we can focus on something that is explicit, right? For instance, we have over here different types of innovation, right? But it is in this one where they mention Chile that they are innovating in construction. So that answer, since is talking specifically about construction, they talk about build homes, yeah, the way they build homes. Over there, we're talking about construction. So evidently the answer would be D, and that would be the reason. Now we can move to question 24. What happens when the government of a country subsidizes dwelling to its citizens? Okay, this is another strategy they have. I believe I mentioned it. They start using synonym words that are not mentioned in the text, but that have the same meaning. Over here, we have a word that is dwelling. Dwelling is the same, or I mean, similar, because let's remember that synonyms are similar, not always equal, but in this case, could be a very, very good word to replace housing, and it is dwelling. Dwelling, housing, essentially the same concept, right? So, what happens when the government of a country subsidizes dwelling to its citizens? Okay, what happens? What is the result of that? Let's evaluate the answers. A, the government responsibly encourages laziness in the cities. Okay, so over here, this will be incoherent because if the government encourages laziness in its citizens, that wouldn't be responsible. That would be irresponsible, right? So we cancel A because itself is contradictory. B, the government misuses the money it collects through taxes. So this states that essentially subsidizing the poor people so they can have like a dignity in the way they live, that would be inappropriate. And that would be like a way of expending the money of the taxes in an in a in an improper matter, right? Or way. So this one definitely is not a good answer. But let's evaluate. See, the government directly contributes to the dignity of its people. So definitely the one that not only is coherent with the text, but that really answers this question is C. So yes, we're choosing C. Now we're moving to the last question, 25. Ecuador is a model to follow in the LAC because. So over here, let's remember that Ecuador is mentioned in a couple of these paragraphs. But in this one, explicitly, they say that Ecuador is an example in this matter. And it is an example of what? Its policies cover any type of people. That is the first answer or possible answer, right? So it talks about any type of people. And over here they say, okay, it is essential that through appropriate urban and social policies, governments ensure that the programs are inclusive. Okay, so over here we have a good prospect because when we talk about inclusive, we're talking about any type of people or everyone in a country would have access to program. So I believe for now, of course, that A is a good possibility. Anyway, let's evaluate B and C. Its housing laws benefit a few people. So this is the contrary. This would be suggesting that these benefits would be exclusive, the opposite of inclusive. So not really a good option. And C, its citizens don't benefit from the state. So that this will exclude all the population, the whole population. So this one wouldn't be coherent either. So with that, we have finished and we have already selected the answers that would be for 21, A, for 22, B, for 23, C, again C in 24, and for 25, A. So let's remember this possibility. Okay, and with this, we're finishing Martes de Prueba number 10 for 8th grade. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for uh, clicking on like and subscribing. So let's remember that. Thank you very much. I hope to see you in the near future.